Hi, it's Katrina. Number 10. Giganotosaurus. The Giganotosaurus was a truly great predator and the epitome of dinosaur evolution. It lived in South America during the Mesozoic era around 97 million years ago. Many thousands of miles to the north was a dinosaur very similar to it, the T-Rex, living in North America about 30 million years after in the Cretaceous period. But which of these two titans was the fiercest of them all? The T-Rex is typically looked at as the apex predator of all time, but the Giganotosaurus was also a ferocious beast. The biggest difference is that they lived at different times, ruling their respective parts of the world. The Giganotosaurus grew to be an estimated 46 feet long, while the T-Rex was only 40 feet. The Giganotosaurus had a long skull and a small brain, while the T-Rex had a thick skull and possibly a larger brain. Both had small little arms, extraordinarily powerful back legs, and ran at tremendously fast speeds. However, the Giganotosaurus could run twice as fast as the T-Rex at 31 miles per hour against 15 miles per hour. Plus, it was bigger. It's impossible to say which predator was the best, but if these two behemoths of the dinosaur age got into a fight, chances are the Giganotosaurus would eat the T-Rex for dinner. Number 9. Black bears. Black bears are some of the biggest predators alive today. Bears have evolved through millions of years to become extraordinarily unique predators. While grizzly bears have a scary reputation, black bears also deserve a healthy respect. Black bears might be gentle giants unless you are a moose. They are generally considered omnivores, eating some meat and fruits and berries, but it is estimated by Ontario biologists that more than 25,000 newborn moose calves are killed and eaten by carnivorous black bears every spring, and only around 50,000 are born every year, so that's about half. They use their sharp claws and teeth to get to the soft insides of deer and moose. The black bear is what you would call an opportunistic predator. It will stop eating halfway through a meal to bury the carcass of whatever animal it has just killed under the moss and dirt. That way, it can come back later for seconds. It'll scavenge corpses and will eat pretty much anything edible in the forest. It even munches on pine cones, roots, and will tear up an anthill to get a healthy serving of insects. And just like in the cartoons, the black bear will stop at a beehive to slurp up some honey for dessert. These bears are also expert fishermen and track stars. When it needs to, it can send its 600 pounds of mass crashing through the forest at up to 30 miles per hour. In a fight against a black bear, no human would really stand a chance. You can't outrun a bear, and you definitely can't fight it. During the spawning season for salmon, black bears can typically be found hanging out along rivers fishing with their bare paws. So fishermen better watch out. Number 8. Predator X. 150 million years ago, there was an animal called Pliosaurus funke, and it was 40 feet in length and had a skull of 6.5 feet long. This creature's head alone was bigger than most people, and its bite force was 4 times that of a T-Rex. According to Patrick Druckenmiller from the University of Alaska Museum, this monster was one of the top predators of the sea during its time. It had teeth so sharp and strong, it could have gobbled up the fiercest dinosaurs on land. The discovery of this terrifying creature started in 2006, when scientists unearthed a pair of gigantic pliosaur skeletons in Norway. At the time, nobody was entirely sure what animal the fossils belonged to, so they named the creature Predator X. They knew it was most likely a pliosaur, and yet it looked strange compared to the other fossils found across Europe, mostly in England and France. It took years and years of painstaking analysis, but finally, the researchers have identified Predator X as a totally unique species of pliosaur. It lived across the world's oceans from between 160 and 145 million years ago during the Jurassic period. It can be characterized by its short neck, 4 large paddle-shaped limbs, and its huge head. Its gigantic limbs allowed it to practically fly through the water, and it was so vicious it would have been able to hunt even the biggest whales still alive today. Number 7. The Mackenzie Valley Wolf. When it comes to the scariest predators in the world, not all of them are prehistoric. The Mackenzie Valley wolf is the biggest wolf in the world and one of the top predators still alive today. The average weight of a male Mackenzie Valley wolf is 137 pounds, and they can be found scattered across Canada and Alaska. If we look back to prehistoric times, wolves were still apex predators. They lived all across North America, Asia, Europe, and even Africa. There were wolves that lived in marshes, in the prairies, along coastal beaches, and deep in the woodlands. Wherever wolves roamed, they adapted to that specific place, and they thrived. For example, the dire wolf was one of the most effective Ice Age predators. It was the most abundant wolf in America up until 9,500 years ago. But the dire wolf relied on eating gigantic herbivores, and when they started to die out, animals like the Mackenzie Valley wolf found themselves at an advantage. The huge dire wolves needed huge animals to eat, while the modern wolves were able to feast on smaller creatures to survive. It also helped that the modern wolves were better at being scavengers and hunters at once. They were great at hunting small rodents and taking down things as big as moose. They would also steal kills from other predators and eat random corpses they found. The Mackenzie Valley wolves would go on to overtake dire wolves as the bigger predators were pushed into extinction. Number 6. The Sarcosuchus. The Sarcosuchus was a prehistoric crocodile that was so big it could have eaten modern crocodiles. The very first Sarcosuchus skull was discovered in 1964, but it wasn't until the 1990s that other pieces of bone like vertebrate, ribs, and cranial scraps were found. Although there has still never been a full Sarcosuchus skeleton found, scientists have gathered enough information to give them a pretty good idea of just how big these ancient predators were. Estimates range from between about 27 feet to 36 feet long. Even at the lower estimates, the Sarcosuchus was gargantuan compared to modern crocodiles. It wasn't just bigger, it was a deadlier predator that could live a lot longer. Modern crocs live to around 25 years in the wild, whereas Sarcosuchus could live to at least 40 years old. They appear to have kept on growing too, so nobody is really sure what the higher limits of their growth were. But with great bulk comes a great need for food. The massive predator had to focus all of its attention on constantly hunting animals. It needed sustenance to keep its gigantic body in motion. The two main things it hunted were huge fish and dinosaurs. Just like modern crocodiles, this reptilian monster would have lurked at the shoreline and waited to snatch huge animals into the water with it. The Sarcosuchus lived between 133 and 112 million years ago, primarily in Africa and South America. Number 5. The Dunkleosteus. The Dunkleosteus terrelli lived 358 million years ago. Northeastern Ohio was at that time covered by a shallow sea, teeming with more marine life than you could possibly imagine. This was a period in time called the Devonian, or the Age of Fishes, and there were far more fish and more species of marine creatures than land animals. It was a time when fish grew to be over 1 ton, and the oceans were chaotic places full of predators and prey. One of the greatest predators during the Devonian period was the Dunkleosteus. It grew to be about 30 feet long. It had a skull made entirely of thick bone plates and 2 fangs that protruded from the front of its skull. These fangs were so powerful they would make vampires embarrassed. And because of how powerful its jawbones were, the Dunkleosteus could easily hunt some of the biggest sharks alive. The discovery of this sea monster goes back to 1867. The museum curator of vertebrate biology at the Cleveland Museum of Natural History, Dr. David Dunkel, discovered the first specimens. We now know the Dunkleosteus was its very own genus, and there were at least 10 different species. The smallest was about 3 feet long, 10 times smaller than the biggest. And this shows a wide distribution and a thriving ecosystem where the top predator was diversifying and evolving to eat everything it possibly could. Number 4. Crocodile packs. Crocodiles have been around for millions of years, since long before the first dinosaur hatched from its egg. Because of this long history on our planet, crocodiles are some of the most intelligent and complex life forms around. Crocodiles practice advanced parental care, communicate with one another, and have even been known to use rudimentary tools. Crocodiles and alligators Both have been caught using sticks to attract water birds, tricking them into getting near enough to strike. The birds use the sticks for building their nests, and the crocodiles use that to their advantage. It's some of the most intelligent behavior ever exhibited by a reptile. But that's hardly where the genius of the crocodile ends. Researcher Vladimir Dinets with the University of Tennessee recently found that crocodiles can also work as teams to hunt down their prey. Up until now, it's always been assumed that crocodiles are strictly ambush predators. This means they stay perfectly still for a long time while they wait for an animal to come close enough to attack it. Crocodiles are nocturnal and typically hunt in murky waters. This has made studying their predatory behavior quite difficult. But Dinets and his team were determined to figure out how crocodiles hunt. They watched eagerly and collected data until they finally had their answers. They witnessed crocodiles using teamwork. They would swim in a wide circle around a group of fish, slowly tightening the circle so that the fish became concentrated into a dense ball. Then the crocodiles would take turns dashing through the density of fish to gobble up as many as possible. It's the kind of behavior you would expect from a pack of dolphins or wolves, not from crocodiles. It just goes to show how intelligent these reptiles are. Number 3. Tasmanian tiger. The Tasmanian tiger was the only marsupial apex predator that ever lived in modern Tasmania. It was a ferocious animal that looked like a bizarre mix between a wolf and a coyote, but with tiger stripes. However, it was a marsupial and not a mammal. The Tasmanian tiger was another great example of the bizarre diversity found throughout Australia and Tasmania. But unfortunately, the animal went extinct in the 1930s. It was alive recently enough that we have pictures of it, but the very last one died in captivity in 1936. But in 2022, something amazing happened. Colossal Biosciences announced their de-extinction project to bring back the Tasmanian tiger as well as the woolly mammoth. Scientists sequenced the genome of the tiger by looking at samples kept in an Australian museum. They now believe that through gene editing, they will be able to resurrect the great predator and hopefully release it back into the wild. And while we've heard these kinds of claims before, Colossal Biosciences really believe they can do it. The science is there, the desire is there, and so is the funding. Hopefully, within the next decade, we will see these apex predators back in their natural habitats. Number 2. The Eastern Golden Eagle. One of the greatest predators of our day is a bird that lives in the Appalachian Mountains. It's called the golden eagle, and it's an icon of the American West. Bald eagles may be significantly easier to spot and more numerous, but the golden eagle is a truly remarkable animal that's elusive, hiding out in the large swaths of untouched wilderness. Of course, golden eagles can still be found throughout much of the eastern United States. However, Appalachia is where their true breeding grounds are, and where they typically spend the winters. These birds are majestic, with eyes like burnished gold and talons that can rip and shred. Technically, the golden eagle is a type of raptor, and that name is no coincidence. Birds are descendants of dinosaurs, and eagles are one of the closest things we have today to extinct raptors from the age of the dinosaurs. It's pretty crazy to think about, but it's true. Golden eagles are really the modern raptors of our world, with wingspans of almost 8 feet in length. They aren't the biggest eagles out there, but certainly some of the deadliest, hunting everything from foxes to white-tailed deer. Number 1. Saber-toothed cat. Up until 10,000 years ago, the Smilodon fatalis was one of the most fearsome predators in the American West. It was also one of the most abundant. We know this because, according to National Geographic, over 3,000 fossilized remains of the Smilodon have been pulled from the La Brea tar pits in California. The sheer number of fossilized remains has given researchers a clear view of what this animal was like, what it looked like, and how it hunted. The Smilodon is the official name for the saber-toothed cat. It was a prehistoric terror that grew to be roughly 600 pounds. It also had upper canine teeth that were 7 inches long. Researchers from Vanderbilt University in Nashville believe the Smilodon hunted leaf-eating creatures like tapirs and deer. They also went after large, thick-skinned mammoths and woolly rhinos. Even early humans were at risk. Just like the direwolf, the Smilodon depended too much on big game. And just like their wolfish friends, they too went extinct about 10,000 years ago. Thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Bye!